Alright, so I'm gonna take full blame for this. I said this would be up at noon on Monday, and clearly it is not. So I am sorry, that is completely my fault. Just lost track of time, we'll just say that. And yeah, so this will still be going up Monday. By the time this is up, Matt's already had his side up, and I know this is going to be post commentated. I'm sorry, it's just this was during the time I was in a bit of a slump, still kind of in the slump, so I was like, I don't really want to live comm this battle, but I don't know, maybe you guys would like to see some post comms for the BBL here, and I can keep the live comms for the WBE. I don't know, let me know in the comment section below, or if you guys want to, then I can just kind of alternate like I did in the GBA season 9. So yeah, we're facing MattOshea here. Check him out, channel link and stuff will be down in the description, as well as a link to the team builder. This time there was an actual team builder, by the way. So yeah, check out the team builder to see what we are bringing, and to see why during this entire game, like, I don't want to mention this every 5 minutes, but I'm gonna mention it right now. My entire thought process through this match is like, hey, Primal Groudon comes in, rock polishes, and I lose. So that's always gonna be in the back of my mind every single turn going into this battle. So yeah, just kind of keep that in your mind, because I don't want to repeat it so much. So going into the game, he brought just about everything I had expected. I was a little bit surprised to see the Frostlass, because Frostlass is a little bit terrifying depending on what kind of set it is. But regardless, my main focus in this match is to get on my hazards, not let Umbreon wreck through my team, and not let that Primal Groudon just freely set up. So I'm going to be leading off with my Alolan Persian, as he decides to lead off with his Thundurus here. I figured that he may just want to go ahead and either Volt Switch or just try to get off some type of chip damage on my Alolan Persian. So I figured that going for the foul play right away would have been my better play, just to get off some damage on the Thundurus and to scout to see what kind of item it was potentially running. As it turns out that he has the U-turn, which means he is most likely not going to be a setup variant, and he may not even have the defog, which would be amazing, as he decides to bring in the Tapu Bulu. I don't really have a good switch into this Bulu, but if he's Choice Scarfed, he never knocks me out. If he's Choice Banded, I outspeed him and I murder him with a Gunk Shot. I don't knock him out with the Gunk Shot, but I do a really good chunk of damage. So I figured, if anything, getting off a huge hit on this Bulu would be amazing, as it turns out that he has the Poison Weakening Berry, but we are able to get the poison off with the Gunk Shot, which I guess is kind of nice. Like, eventually I would have been able to get on my T-Spikes later and force this back in to get poisoned, but hey, I guess we started off a little bit sooner than later, which is not entirely too bad, as he decides to go for the Leech Seed. Man, I really do not like Tapu Bulu. Honestly, if I wanted to, I could have just stayed in here and just kept spamming Gunk Shot realistically, because with the grassy terrain up, I'm gaining back HP regardless. So the fact that he Leech Seeded me literally doesn't matter whatsoever. I think I was mainly worried about the fact that he could go for a Toxic here. So I figured even if he does Toxic, my Rotom mode doesn't necessarily mind it too much, so I can switch it in and then just Volt Switch out the following turn. And I figured that maybe he could have brought in Primal Groudon here. So I almost wanted to go for the Toxic there, but I figured that if he does stay in, it's probably going to be in my best interest to Volt Switch, because he only has one Mon that he can bring in, which is Primal Groudon, but he has 4 of the Mons that could also potentially come in. So that kind of outweighs the odds. So I figured Volt Switching may not be the worst thing ever, as he reveals to have the Nature's Madness. That's not entirely too bad, because I know at this point, with him being a -1 and him only having Horleech, there's no way he should be able to one-shot me here. So I'm just going to get up a layer of T-Spikes here, which is absolutely amazing, because now in theory, the Primal Groudon and the Umbreon should no longer be as big of a nuisance as they typically would be, because now they're going to come in and get poisoned, and that's going to be amazing. As he hard switches into his Thundurus, not gonna lie, very terrified the Primal Groudon was coming in there, but it didn't, which is amazing, as he makes a really good play here. Goes for the Powder Ice, probably expecting me to bring in my Garchomp, expecting a Thunderbolt there, because there's a chance that maybe this could be like Choice Specs, and he only had U-turn because he didn't want to Volt Switch on my 2 potential ground types. But it turns out that he's not choiced in any type of way, as he switches up moves and goes for the U-turn on out back into his Tapu Bulu, which I believe I do end up Volt Switching here, because I know Leaf Storm would have done decent damage to the Primal Groudon, but again, if he didn't bring it in, keeping up momentum on my side is going to be amazing. Plus, if he did bring in the Primal Groudon, it's going to have to take the Toxic damage, and then it could have taken Leaf Storm damage, which would have put it really low, and that would have been amazing. So him making the safe play here into Bulu makes a lot of sense in my opinion, as I can Volt Switch right back into my Alolan Persian, and I just want to thank him for allowing me to gain back free recovery on my non-leftovers Alolan Persian, because now I can just sit here and gain back a good chunk of HP and pick up a KO. And again, I really, this is the main reason I don't like Tapu Bulu. Anybody who says Tapu Bulu is a good Tapu in draft format is delusional. This thing I really don't like. Like, Bulu did nothing in this game besides just give me free HP. And it's going to continue giving me free HP as he crits me here with what turns out to be a Choice Scarf Frostlass. Oh my lord, I did not expect this to be Scarf, but I'm so happy that I can get rid of this thing at this point in the match, because this legitimately would have been able to just sweep me late game. So the fact that I got rid of Choice Scarf means that now this thing is no longer as big of a problem as it initially would have been, because I was still able to live that Ice Beam. Now if he had froze me, that would have really sucked. I'll take the crit because it activates our Ayapapa Berry, and we're still gaining back HP regardless from the grassy terrain, which is amazing. As in comes the Bronzong, I make a bit of a questionable play here by going straight for the parting shot. I think in hindsight, I definitely should have gone straight for the knockoff to see what kind of item this Bronzong was carrying, because my initial thought was like, oh hey, I can just bring in my Necrozma here, substitute, and then go from there, because I really want to use this Bronzong for setup fodder. Even if he has Earthquake, it's not going to be able to break my sub unless he's running a whole bunch of attack EVs, which I guess he could be, but it still would be entirely too much to the point where he loses a lot of significant bulk, and that would still be good for me. But it turns out that he has the Reflect, and this was an amazing tech on Matt's part, because I did not expect him at all to have Reflect Bronzong. And now this is a little bit of a problem, because even though yes, I'm able to Toxic the Umbreon, two issues now arrive. He could have Heal Bell, which I'm hoping he doesn't. Like, if he doesn't have Heal Bell, dealing with this Umbreon is going to be so much simpler. But now I also have to worry about the Reflect, which is why I don't go straight for a Swords Dance. 2 Sunsteel Strikes do more damage than a +2 Sunsteel Strike, if I'm not mistaken. So I figured that I can get off a little bit more damage with just 2 Sunsteel Strikes on this Umbreon and then go from there. There's also the chance that I could stay here, continue subbing, and eventually stall out the turns of Reflect, which would also be very beneficial to me. But I'm just going to go for one more Sunsteel Strike to see what exactly he wants to do. As we put him at around 51-ish%, he turns out to have the Heal Bell, and that is very problematic. I really got upset when I saw the Heal Bell, because now one of my main ways of dealing with this Umbreon is gone. You're gonna see that this Umbreon is actually just, oh, this thing is such a pain to deal with. I knew Umbreon initially was gonna be an issue, but dude, this thing just is about to put in some work. Spoiler alert, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, this Umbreon's about to just kind of smack us around for a bit here. So he decides to go for the Wish there. I know it may seem odd that I switched out behind a sub, but I figured that if I immediately switch into my Persian, then I could probably go immediately for the knockoff. The sooner I get rid of this thing's leftovers, the better. And along with that, I could have also stayed in and potentially tried to Swords Dance with my Necrozma, but there was always the fear that he would go straight for the foul play. I'm surprised he even went straight for the Wish as opposed to going for the foul play, because I was able to more or less bring in Alolan Persian safely and only had to take 1 hit instead of 2 as I parting shot into my Quillfish here. It sucks that foul play doesn't, not foul play, sorry. Oh yeah, I guess foul play, having its attack lowered, the Pokemon's attack lowered, doesn't do less damage, but it is what it is. As my thought process right now is hopefully trying to just chip this down with Rocky Helmet, bring in my Aerodactyl to taunt it, and just try to weaken it to the point where I can maybe revenge kill it with something else. So I am going to have to lose a Pokemon or two to try to deal with this Umbreon, all while thinking that he can easily just switch out, because he could just switch out. Although if it comes back in, then it's taking spikes. It's going to have to take that free turn again to Heal Bell. So if he does stay in here, then I guess he avoids that entire process. But then that allows me to try and pressure this thing. But at the same time, because it's so physically defensive, because it's so bulky, and I don't have any type of super effective move on my team, this thing is still going to be able to put in a little bit of work against me. As I go for the taunt with my Aerodactyl, I thought that maybe he could bring in the Bronzong, and if he stayed in, I would still get off decent damage on it as well. As I decide to make a hard switch here directly into my Garchomp. This might have been a little bit questionable, because I knew that he could 2-hit KO me with the foul play, but there was a thought that maybe he would bring in Bronzong on my Aerodactyl, expecting me to not be able to touch the Bronzong, and then that way I do have the crunch on my Garchomp, so I can crunch the Bronzong and go from there. And this is where I realized that there was actually really not a good reasoning as to why I had Continental Crush instead of what I originally had, which was the Ground EMZ instead of the Rock EMZ, because I could have had a different move over Stone Edge and had the Ground EMZ, and Ground EMZ actually would have knocked out Umbreon here, and I could have kept my Garchomp. But now that I lost Garchomp, this match is basically kind of seeming like it's going downhill. Garchomp would have been amazing to keep around, because so long as that Primal Groudon never got up to +2 speed, and Earthquake absolutely murdered it. But now I've lost Garchomp, I've lost my Quillfish, my Aerodactyl is basically dead. Umbreon just bent half my team over, and that is not okay. That put me in such a terrible position in this match at this point. I can still easily win this, but now Matt has a greater chance of winning, as I parting shot into my Rotom here. A foul play would have not knocked him out at the range of HP that he was at, so I figured that by bringing in my Rotom, I can sack it off to this, bring in Aerodactyl, then knock out Thundurus, but he reveals the Defog, and this is basically where I just kind of lost all hope in this game, if I'm being honest with you guys, because at this point I needed to rely on the Spike and the T-Spike in order to damage the Groudon, which I could have been able to still outspeed with my Aerodactyl, and I could have subbed up with my Necrozma on it to rack up the chip damage from the Toxic. But now the entire game plan has changed. I need to figure out some way, somehow, to end up with my Necrozma behind a substitute at +2, which if Matt plays it correctly and smartly, then he's not going to allow me to do that. But I need to figure out some way that I can still do that. So I figured that if I lose my Rotom here next turn, I'm going to bring in my Alolan Persian again, and I'm going to parting shot. I'm not going to go for the foul play. I'm not going to go for damage. I'm going to parting shot, sack off my Aerodactyl. Then that way I can have this Thundurus at -2 attack, -2 special attack, bring in my Necrozma, and hopefully be able to substitute. Now, alternatively, I could have directly brought in my Aerodactyl and got the KO on this Thundurus, but at the same time, because he has Bronzong in the back, he can easily switch Bronzong hard in on my Aerodactyl, and I still have to deal with this Thundurus for later. But at least by bringing in my Alolan Persian to try and lure this thing's special attack even more, it puts it to the point where he won't be able to break a substitute from my Necrozma, and if he doesn't paralyze me with a Thunderbolt, then I'm still gonna be in a decent enough scenario to maybe be able to Sword Dance and be behind a sub. As he decides to finally knock out my Rotom here, I am going to decide to go ahead and go with that plan, which gives me, I think, my best chance of winning this match, as I do parting shot here into my Aerodactyl. I guess there was a chance that maybe he could have gone for the U-turn, but U-turn didn't knock me out, and I'm guessing he did just want to go ahead and just get the KO if he thought I was going to try and go for the foul play, which it was a roll to knock him out at the amount of HP that he was at, so it was definitely not worth trying to go for that. And I think after the first foul play, he was guaranteed to live after the parting shot, he was able to live a foul play regardless. So by putting him at -2 again, I can bring in Necrozma. He should never break my sub. I should be in a really good spot here if I do end up behind a substitute. He still does not know my last move, which could easily be Earthquake, so I don't think he would feel confident in switching directly into Groudon here. And if he did bring it in, then I would still be able to get off a huge hit with my Earthquake, potentially put him in range of where even my Alolan Persian's foul play could have potentially knocked him out. And this is why earlier I think I should have gone for knockoff on this Bronzong, as I think he got up his Stealth Rocks, because I would have been able to have some initial damage on this Bronzong as he gets up a Reflect again. That's not entirely too bad. I'm actually going to decide to be aggressive here and go straight for the Photon Geyser, just on the off chance that he wanted to hard switch directly in to the Primal Groudon, but he actually switches into his Thundurus. I don't really know why he hard switched into Thundurus here. I'm guessing maybe he thought I would just go for a second Sword Dance, which is understandable, honestly, because with the Reflect up, even though I have a Sword Dance up, it's basically like I'm at neutral attack, because Reflect halves damage, and obviously Sword Dance doubles your attack, so I'm not doing double damage, I'm doing normal damage, so long as his Reflect up is still on the field. So in comes this fucking Primal Groudon. Oh my god, I've been able to keep this thing at bay this entire match, but finally it comes in. And this is really terrifying, because if he has Fire Punch, or if he has Earthquake, or Flamethrower, Lava Plume, any of those 4 moves, then he is always going to hit them and just absolutely obliterate me. But it turns out that he actually has Precipice Blade. Now this is really good because if he doesn't have Fire Punch, Flamethrower, or Lava Plume, then I can potentially keep subbing up until not only the Reflect ends, but until he potentially misses one of his inaccurate moves. And that is something that I definitely need to do in this scenario. This right now gives me my best chance of winning. If I can get rid of this Primal Groudon with my Necrozma, I can get off a huge hit on the Bronzong to then guarantee that my Persian 100% wins. Although, if he does not have a Colbur Berry on Bronzong, then my Alolan Persian should in theory be able to still 2-hit KO it with the foul play, which means I still more or less kind of have a chance to win, but I'm trying to play this as if maybe he does have the Colbur Berry on Bronzong because I don't have any type of information on it. I need to play around worst case scenario, which right now is him having the Colbur Berry on the Bronzong. So I think I sub up one more time here as he decides to go for the Overheat, which is actually not that bad because now I know all three of his offensive moves. I'm 100% positive the last move is Rock Polish, so I can sub up here probably 2 more times until eventually he does end up missing, but I don't do that because I decide to go for the Photon Geyser when I really should have just kept subbing, and he is able to just barely live. Dude, like a part of me was hoping, okay, maybe we'll get a crit to kind of get some justice for earlier in the match, although I guess that would have really sucked. But I mean, he hit 2 Precipice Blades, a Stone Edge, an Overheat, and a 3rd Precipice Blade. That's 5 inaccurate moves hit back to back to back to back to back to back to back, which is insane. I've never seen that. I've never seen that on the ladder either. So yeah, I don't know what the percentages at that point were for him to hit another move, but he hit it. As I bring in my Alolan Persian, I'm hoping he doesn't have Colbur Berry on Bronzong, and I decided to just go straight for the foul play to pick off the Primal Groudon, but he switches into the Bronzong, has the Colbur Berry, and literally just let me pop it. He was like, here, have my Colbur Berry. I don't know why he did this. Watch his side of the video. I asked him, like, I'm still baffled by this because I literally just got handed the victory here because he had the Colbur Berry. I think he mentioned that he was trying to save differential and he didn't calc something correctly. I don't really know what initially was going through his head, but he should have just sacked off Groudon if he had the Colbur Berry all along on Bronzong, because unless I got 2 crits on the Bronzong, I don't think I would have been able to knock it out. But I was able to pop the Colbur Berry on the switch in, knock him out with another foul play, and Alolan Persian ends up picking up 5 kills while Primal Groudon only got 1, and that is an insane way to end this match and to start off the season of the BBL. So hey, we take those, man. A W is a W, so we are able to start up the season 1-0 with an absolutely nail-biter of a match here against MattOshea. Again, guys, check him out. Channel link and stuff down in the description, as well as the rest of the roster for the BBL this season. And with that being said, let me know again if you guys want me to kind of alternate between live and post comms, or you just want to see post comms for BBL and then I can keep the live comms for the WBE, or I don't know, just let me know what you think, and I will see you all next week, I suppose. So yeah, hopefully we can get another W in week 2. So later, everybody.